Hello, thank you so much for stopping by. My name is Melissa with 1S, but you can call me Mel, and this is my houseplant tour 2021. We will be watching part 2, and I will link part 1 at the end of this video.
Alright, so now we are in my plant room. Also, it is my office. So I do have a lot of plants in this section just because I have a double door here, allows a lot of light in, and it's working well for the plants. So first I'm going to go through the white shelf that I have in front of my plant wall. So some of these are propagations, cuttings, and some of these are smaller plants. So just to start off, I do have a Synapsis Pictus Exotica. I don't know if you see that there, beautiful. This is one of my favorite plants just because the leaves have like a silvery, iridescent type of look to them, and they're huge. And it's also a plant that's going to vine, so I'm super excited for it to start trailing down and being able to potentially hang it as well. Here I have a propagation that I did of some string of hearts. This was a test for me because I've never propagated string of hearts before, but here you have a little plant of string of hearts, and this I took off of the mother plant. I was worried because it was my first time, but I'm like, you know what, let me just place them in this little container with some soil, mostly perlite, and there's 4 different cuttings. 2 of them are already vining, and then the other 2 are a lot smaller, but they also are growing. So a very successful propagation of the string of hearts. And then once I feel that they are stable enough, I will be transferring them to the mother plant and putting it on top. That way it's more lush and full on the top. Next I have a Sansevieria cylindrica, or Dracaena. I don't know what it's called these days, but this is a propagation. I've been waiting for it for a while to root, but we'll see what happens. I have it in this paper bag storage cover pot from Amazon that my mother-in-law got me, so I have it in this little cute cover pot. And then I have a Ficus elastica variegated. It is the, I don't think it's the Tahiti or Tahini, I don't know what it's called, but it's because it's not the pink one, it's the white variegated one. This one did get root rot, but it's still hanging in there. Hopefully, once it's stabilized and grown a better root system, it will start putting out a new leaf, but I'm patiently waiting for that one to get better. And then this one is just a very, very small snake plant propagation, and it was one that I had in water. So I had a longer cutting in water, and then a little baby shoot started growing, but the actual cutting started to rot. So I placed it in water, that way the roots started to grow for the little baby. So we'll see what happens to that one. But so far I do see it still alive. This one is a small jade cutting that I had a few months back. That's now its little plant. I can't call it a cutting anymore. It has quite a few more leaves, and now it's just 2 little plants. Here I have a couple of more snake plant propagations. 2 little guys have grown from them. More successful propagations. If you haven't seen my video, I have 2 propagation videos. So these guys have been in those videos, but of course, definitely they have grown a lot more since I've recorded that video. Same with this guy. Here's a little snake plant propagation that's now its own little plant baby. Super cute. I'm really happy. It was my first time that I was really putting things into my propagation box and see whether or not they were successful, and they all were. So obviously that's quite motivating for me to continue to propagate. This one is just a golden pothos propagation. I just took a cutting that had 2 leaves, 2-3 leaves, and now it's again growing into its own plant, and the leaves are growing a lot bigger, just like a mature plant. So again, a very successful propagation. And yeah, so that's what I have on my white shelf. Now let's go check out my plant wall. For those that have watched my recent videos, you will be definitely familiar with this plant wall. So I will show you exactly what I do have on this plant wall right now. So on the left here, I have a beautiful, gorgeous Rhaphidophora Tetrasperma, and it is vining very quickly up this skid that I have on the wall. I will also link the video to these Rhaphidophoras in the description if you haven't watched them already. I also have a couple of more Synapsis pictus exoticas. These are more just cuttings. So I have two little guys just propagating in soil. I think there's 2 cuttings in each. So we'll see if I can get that to grow and just be a little bit more lush and potentially add it to the other one. And then here I have what I call my teenage Monstera. This one I bought as a cutting earlier last year for, I think it was $16, and it had 3 leaves, I think. And since then it's grew a couple more, and I realized that it was losing its fenestrations and slits. So I decided that it obviously needed more light, which is exactly what it needed, because the recent leaf that I have on this plant has 3 slits, and it's because I've obviously added more light. And then up here I have 2 vessels that have propagations. Again, some snake plant propagations. They're so easy to propagate, which is why I have so many. And then I have one piece of heart-shaped philodendron. And then here I also have some more snake plant propagations that are doing super well. This guy already has a baby, and so does that guy. So it's almost time to get these in soil. I bought a snake plant on Facebook Marketplace, and it actually had root rot. When I bought it, it had soil that was super dense, and I regret not transferring it into better soil sooner, but oh well. I obviously got a lot of cuttings out of it. And then over here you will see just a tiny snake plant propagation that I cut from the exact same plant that I was just talking about. This is a heart-shaped leaf philodendron, which is obviously vining up the skid as well. It's in a small pot, so at some point I definitely have to check the roots to see whether or not I should up pot it. And then here I have a Monstera Peru, which is also vining, and it has 2 plants in one, which is awesome. So when I bought it, it did have one going one way and then another growth point going another. This one definitely needs a moss pole. So that's another project that I'm looking to do. I did buy moss on Amazon, and then I'll be buying some other stuff at a hardware store and hopefully be posting that video. So stick around if you want to see me make a moss pole for this guy. So this is the Monstera Peru. And on the other side of the plant wall, I also have another Rhaphidophora Tetrasperma. It is my longer trailing or vining plant. So same thing, if you saw earlier on in the video, you saw them both trailing on the side, thriving. They were actually one plant that I bought, and maybe if I have time, I'll insert a clip or a picture of it. Small plant, short plant, and I bought it last year. And now they're thriving, growing very quickly, very fast. So I'll probably be propagating that plant this summer or spring. And behind me here, I have my pride and joy, the Monstera deliciosa. It is my favorite plant. That's why she's on a pedestal in the corner here. When I found this plant, she was actually in the windowsill of a coffee shop here in town. And I was with my fiance and I said, oh my gosh, I want to go in and see whether or not they would give me a cutting and I'll pay for it, whatever. So I walked in and I said, your plant's gorgeous, you know, can I have a cutting? And she's like, yeah, sure, of course. And I said, well, you know, how much? Just let me know. And she's like, no, don't worry about it. You're not the first one to ask me for a cutting. So she was so generous enough to give me a cutting that had 2 big leaves, very mature leaves with a lot of fenestrations and a lot of slits. So I love her dearly, and she has put out 2 leaves since I've had her, but they are smaller than the original 2 leaves. So I'm thinking it's because she has less light here versus the windowsill where she was at the coffee shop. So hopefully within the next leaf or 2, I will get mature, bigger leaves. But I mean, it's winter, so I'm not surprised that the latest leaf wasn't that big, but it did have a lot of fenestrations as well. So Love this plant. Monstera deliciosa is probably one of my favorite easy care, easygoing plants, and I have not had an issue with her whatsoever.